Morning, everyone. Welcome so much for joining, or welcome and thank you so much for joining us today at our first webinar, talking about a couple of cloud kitchens concepts and just, what's going on in our lives, the need for pivoting. And so this particular webinar will be talking about pivoting in uncertain times, the survival for independent food creative. All right. I'm Brenda Rios Brownbacher. I am the Director of Entrepreneurial Initiatives and Community Relations at HCC, Center for Entrepreneurship Southeast. So some of you may know me, some of you probably came into our series back in our center when we could do things in person. This would actually be the hallway if you were coming into our center. So, we kind of missed that site, but we are so lucky to be here online with you all. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Let me tell you a little bit about the center. We're actually part of the Office of Entrepreneurial Initiatives at HCC. And so we actually have a lot of programs and efforts that could help you as a business owner or somebody that has an idea that would like to get that idea running as a business. It all depends on what phase of that business cycle you're on, okay? So for example, if you're already an existing business for 2 years and you want to grow your capacity, grow your revenue and marketing efforts, you can join the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses that, it's almost like an accelerator program. So check us out at our website at hccs.edu/small business. We also house what is the Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency. And also they help you or businesses already who are existing, who would like to get contracts with government, for example, a lot of like construction and manufacturing, all those vendor, there's a lot of instructions to follow and they can help you out. They have amazing webinars almost like once per week. So again, they post those things at our website. So make sure if you're at that cycle, make sure to just join us and check the events that we're posting. We're active on our social media, especially our Facebook page. So if you're not already joining us at HCC Entrepreneurship, make sure that after this webinar, you just click and join our group so you don't miss out on all those cool things. And lastly, I represent one of the centers for entrepreneurship, but depending on where you are in Houston, we also have the Northwest campus and the Southwest campus. We all have different kinds of products and programs. The Northwest, for example, just hosted the business plan competition. And the Southwest campus focuses a lot on like students who would like to have their pitch competition with their HCC audiences. So again, don't miss out on all this cool resources. You don't have to be an HCC student to be a part of this. We're here for you and for our community. All right, well, this webinar is not about us. I wanted to just get that out of the way and introduce amazing speakers today. I'll start with Moses Iku. He is an avid foodie with a love for local eats and international treats. He is an advocate for entrepreneurship and small businesses, bridging cultures through food and community. He has over 14 years of experience working with multinational firms like Schlumberger, Syke, and Lockheed Martin in senior operations, project, and business process management roles, where he has led high visibility projects within these organizations. He aims to bring his business efficiency knowledge to the small business space, and he holds a bachelor's of business administration from University of Hertfordshire in England, and a master's of international business management from the University of Barcelona. Moses, say hi.
Hey, hi everybody. How are you?
And then we also have Brandy Guidry. She is an entrepreneur, a STEAM advocate, and a consultant. She's an independent consultant that supports startups, established businesses, investment and private equity firms, and as well as nonprofits. Her consultant services assistance with product lifecycle and growth opportunities. She's a fourth-generation female business owner who comes from a long line of entrepreneurs, and her personal business experience includes the food and restaurant industry, consumer products, business turnarounds, and property management. Prior to consulting, she held multiple leadership roles with engineering and business operations for the Department of Defense and GE. She has led and assisted in the development of over 100 products and driven annual P&L savings between 18.5 to 45 million. It's amazing.
You guys a quick overview of who we are at Common Cookery. Our goal is to find a light for what we term as a transnational or diaspora eater. Our mission is to always spotlight local independent food creators from immensely diverse food communities in cities like Houston, where we plan to launch in. So, who is a transnational or diaspora eater, you may ask? Well, our motto is Eat Your Travels. People cross state lines, people cross national borders, and when they do, they bring with them their traditional food ways and integrate them with new tastes they may find wherever they end up. I see myself as a transnational eater. So I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I've been in the US for over 20 years now. I've also been traveled to a lot of countries where they leisurely work, and I've had the opportunity to enjoy cuisines from various cultures. So it's not unusual that at my dinner table on any given day, I may be eating the pepper soup that I grew up eating or the biryani that I stumbled on from my business travels in southern India, or even a local regional favorite here in Houston, like seafood gumbo. As we all know, the US is a culturally complex society where people from all backgrounds interact, and that seems to be the case. Matter of fact, we've been projected to be a non majority ethnic group country by 2040. Here in Houston, for instance, 1 in 5 Houstonians speaks a different language other than English at home. But yet, demographic that is growing and is very lucrative lack convenient digital access to cuisines that they've come to identify with and they view as everyday delight. Why is this the case? A lot of times, the food creators that cater to these unique tastes tend to be your typical smaller mom and pop businesses that operate on razor thin margins. So they don't even have the marketing budget to really highlight their cuisine and to showcase to the world their different food cultures. So we at Common Cookery saw this as a need that needed to be addressed. And we want to bridge this digital divide by connecting the diaspora eaters through our curated digital marketplace to these small independent food creators that focus on these hard to find regional cuisines.
They're not the same as like the Asian dumplings. They call it, I think in Turkey, they also have those. It's like almost like soupy inside. So you have to eat it all in one bite. And I wish we had that here in Houston.
Oh, well, Common Cookery actually is looking to put that in place for transnational eaters just like yourself. Believe it or not, it is here in Houston. You just don't know how to easily access it. So I'm hoping that by the time we're done with this, right, and we launch, you can actually just be able to go on your website and just place an order and it arrives at your door with such ease.
Well, I can't wait, to be honest. So for Brandy, for example, she misses the food from Florence, Italy, like the gnocchi. Yeah, you can't really, I mean, I've never been to Italy, so I can just imagine it's probably so fresh and different than what we have here.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
Ned, for example, Japanese cuisine of all kinds. I know him, and he loves the sushi here in Houston.
Hey, Ned, guess what? There is a whole lot more to Japanese cuisine than sushi, though.
That's true. See, that's my own bias because that's all I know. So I can't wait for your product to introduce me to more things Japanese. All right. Well, so tell us, how do you get involved with us here at HCC Moses?
Yeah, sure. For one, HCC has a tremendous resource that is reinforced with their deep ties to the local community here in Houston. And also, they're very committed to socially minded entrepreneurship, which is one of our core focuses, right? To be a public benefit company. So, as I started building this project, the HCC Office of Entrepreneurship was really instrumental in connecting Common Cookery with a lot of high value resources and professional relationships like SCORE and some of the incubators that are here locally, experts that could navigate me through the startup process. So that was really beneficial, especially when COVID-19 really hit us in March and we found ourselves in a new territory and I needed to pivot to a new way of thinking. HCC again was there to support me with all the additional resources as well as connect me with critical thinkers that were actively working to navigate, not just navigate and survive this new space we found ourselves in, but to actually excel once we get out of it. So for someone like me and with Common Cookery that we're actively looking to move forward with this new business environment, it was important that I have open conversation with the food business community on how we can really pivot together because there's just so much unknown, right? and and to be able to have this conversation, HTC has really helped me in a meaningful way. That's why you guys are attending this webinar today, for instance, right? They've helped me connect to pros and just the larger community as a whole to even see what the pain points are and what other food businesses are looking to do to pivot in this time, and also what the eating customers themselves are doing because a lot has changed for them as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like we're a hidden gem. And because we're a college or a community college that a lot of people think it's like for credit or to transfer those, which we do. We have the academic side, but for example, the center, we have, it's the resource really, it's a hub of resources available. And it's usually, I mean, for free now that we're digital. So please take advantage of that. I mean, well, so as next, you know, we're excited to hear more about the pivoting. We have a couple of ideas from this videos coming up. You know, pivot is officially the buzzword of 2020, and everyone is trying to figure it out. But I think the key here is that you don't have to figure it out by yourself. You can do it us together, and we can help you with that. Here are two different approaches to pivoting. So let's check it out.
Chapters, you know, when I'm okay, all right. Well, then you would know that that move is called the pivot. And as you pivot, you can check new angles. You can pack and shoot. Well, in basketball and in life, trouble is guaranteed. Disruption is inevitable. The pivot is a key tool for would-be game changers. You are here. You want to go there. But what to do when life circumstances evolve? Change is challenging. It can be tough to prepare for. It just is what it is. The game has changed, and now you got a deal. What are you going to do? Stand there?
I'm going to stop it there because it's a little bit long, but you can definitely check it out on YouTube. Let's just, you know, a lot of people say pivoting, but like it's probably the most difficult thing to do because how do you change? So let's check out this other video from friends to, you know, because I think that's more of the reality for all of us.
All right, okay. Here we go. All right, ready? Yeah. Turn. Okay. Turn. Turn.
I just don't think it's a fit.
Oh yeah, well come on, up. Yes. Here we go. Pivot. 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 Pivot.
I mean, who else feels that way? Please let us know your thoughts. What do you think? Why is pivoting so challenging when it comes to real life? Why is it easier said than done?
Change is hard, right? And then for most people, there's always that safety in going with what you know versus what you don't know. And oftentimes pivoting, sometimes it's just like that. Even when you make the turn, be prepared to make another turn because you may not find exactly what you're looking for, or what you do find may not be what you expect. Just be prepared to explore it and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I mean, like Rachel mentions, like there is that fear of change. I mean, at least in this video from Friends, somebody was saying pivot, pivot, and you will sort of like know when to angle things. But because in real life, you don't get that, right? Like it's inside voice.
Exactly.
Ned, pivot also requires reorientation, always, you know. There's this book, I think you Move with Your Cheese. I think if anybody has read that, please like put that on the chat box as well. Because change, we know the most constant factor is change, but it's just so uncomfortable because, you know, you have to sort of like have the protocols and the flexibility, especially when it comes to a new business, to be fluid, you know, with the times. Brandy, a lot of people know they want to change something, but they don't know how. Yeah, like there's no instructions. You don't come with like a set of instructions as to what to do, right?
That's true.
Distributions to strategically schedule roadmaps and timelines. Completely agree with you. And then also like, you know, there's a lot of things like business plans for your business, which is great. It's a great tool. But when it comes to change, like you're gonna have to put that on the business plan, but you never like it's not as inclusive, right? Like you just don't know what kind of disaster. I mean, we didn't even know coronavirus was going to happen, right? So you can't include those in the business plan. But what makes it so important is that you make it fluid and flexible for your business to succeed. And no matter the factors or the risks out there, that you know that it could be helpful for progressing through your business. Well, I want to stop there. I want to go into Brandy. You know, you have a lot of experience with guiding businesses through pivots to a new product, or you know, you have told them a course of action. What are your thoughts on the urgent need to pivot for business operations?
Well, first, I like to say I think what everybody has included in the chat is real, and everybody's experienced it, and we can connect to that. But going back to what Brenda asked, as far as what I'm seeing with pivoting, I'd like to actually go back to those two videos. I think, like Brenda said, they really provide kind of the ideal way of proceeding versus, you know, kind of what the reality is. And in the first video, you saw the gentleman talk about pivoting and just slightly changing direction, and that's really all it is. If you notice, you stay grounded, have that 1 foot grounded, like you're pivoting in basketball, but you just make slight adjustments. And if people think about that, you know, whether they're in the restaurant industry or another type of business, then they can stay true to what they built their business on, but just make adjustments for those, you know, uncertain or unexpected times. And when you have Ross Geller from Friends, you know, kind of cracking the whip at you and yelling, he just kept yelling, pivot, pivot. And you have people that do that sometimes, but keep yelling or saying the same thing, but expecting different results, kind of producing insanity. But, you know, you need guidance and direction in there. So that's one thing, especially if you're working in a team environment, because, you know, he even said, turn, that didn't work. So he said, pivot. Just because you change your words, it doesn't mean people are going to understand. You have to provide that guidance and information there. So that's your thoughts on the video. And, I'm still kind of cracking up every time I see that video. I don't know about anybody else. But when we move on to, you know, this slide here, uncertainty brings opportunity. I think that is the core of what a lot of us should be thinking about. This is something to where we can focus on our, you know, perspectives, ingenuity, innovation, and different things. And I like to take people to kind of understand and just walk through, you know, pre-COVID to now. So pre-COVID, whether you were in the restaurant industry or a tech startup, different things, you were focused on providing a great product, something that had great quality, great people, customer service, and retention. And obviously, you're trying to remain financially responsible so you can grow and make the necessary changes to stay relevant in your industry. You also, specifically within the restaurant industry, if you were in operating in a corporate type setting or part of the town, you really were depending on those lunch crowds or those after work dinner crowds, because we all know about those business meetings that take place over a long extended dinner, especially if somebody has come into town. I don't know if anybody has been through that before, but feel free to chime in on that, because those can be some long enduring times. And, you know, just to get through that. So you probably have seen, if you're in the restaurant industry, a shift from where your revenue is coming from, because since we're at home and really not leaving as much, you're seeing a lot of the restaurants in the residential areas and even these planned communities are probably getting more revenue. So unless you had a franchise or some other facility out in the residential area, you may have really just kind of been had to the point to where your revenue really just went to zero, which is very unfortunate. And if you look also pre-COVID, there are a lot of catering events, even if it wasn't an event actually held at a restaurant or something like that. They definitely made their money off of, say, businesses having a milestone anniversary for somebody, a farewell celebration. Out in Houston, other areas, we have King's for our young ladies coming of age. We have other birthdays and stuff. And so that's really slowed down. We don't have that as much. And one of the last things that unfortunately so many founders, owners, and operators know about, they feel like they have to do things on their own. I've been there. Sometimes you feel like you're out there by yourself, but it's really not the case. I don't know if anybody in the chat has kind of felt that way, even if you're not in the restaurant industry, but have you felt like with operating your business or even something that you had to take responsibility for, you felt like you were out there on your own? Just curious to see some thoughts from people.
Yeah, while we wait for to tell us your story and your thoughts, just a little bit from my family. I think we had a restaurant in Stafford, Texas, which is about 2 far from Houston, and it was a restaurant for 5 years, but then the recession hit, and the petroleum companies that were surrounding, who would usually come into our restaurant during lunchtime, that was like our main business. Unfortunately, they ended up closing down, and that affected us so much. So Brandy, it's not a one case scenario. I think it's all small restaurants, especially family owned, need that support. And back then, we never knew who we could lean on, right? Or what resources are available too.
Ned made a great point. Owning a business is often lonely at the top. And that's an important and kind of really true to facts, because you're out there, sometimes you might feel like you're constantly just trying to play catch up, and that you're by yourself, and you probably don't have vacation as much either. So you really are just in it for the long haul. You really have to be passionate about it. It is not for the weak-minded individuals or people that are not willing to put in the work. So I appreciate that comment, Ned. Just transitioning, when we look at, navigating through a new environment, our new norm, we really have to lean on the, like the community and different things. And Brenda alluded to that as far as, getting support and the resources. I think a lot of people before were just thinking, if I have this great product, this great food and different things, and you're able to have a dine-in experience, I'm fine. I may be a member of respective organizations, but they probably didn't think they needed that then. They're more on strategic planning versus, say, a disruptive planning that has happened with COVID. And so it's key that we lean on, places like HCC and other accelerators and different things of that nature in our respective organizations. Even Texas Restaurant Association, they provided a great source of data. And I encourage people to subscribe to similar organizations, because I think with that, they can provide a concise email as far as for updates, versus you having to do this robust research probably on a daily manner at some point, depending. It can provide some brief updates for everything you need and all the essentials. And I think also what people need to pay attention to as far as the restaurant industry, what are your customers saying? Make sure you're communicating effectively to let your customers know, okay, we're opening soon, we're open now, but reduce hours, change your menu. And with that, making sure you are paying attention to what were the drivers. Was a certain type of food that that was high volume. Make sure you keep that on the menu and let them know what's going on, and to hear back from the customers. That's key, because this community effort right now is really what's going to keep people going. I think, for people that aren't already signing up for Common Cookery, at best, they were using an app to order. So you've seen the transition from, say, using a, if they were even using a DoorDash or Uber Eats, that's ramped up now. Now they have to really look at, you know, the stats and the data as far as how do you maintain that same volume and revenue with at most right now 25% of your clientele coming in and not in the waves that they were used to before. So I think that's key. And one last thing I'll state is that, you know, it might be scary, but, you know, some people that might have been your competitors before could be your peers right now, and you can join forces to help get through this time. Because, you know, even though it was essential workers, whether it be in the restaurant industry or medical, essential wasn't always accessible and not to the needs that the consumer really needed it. So we have to make those adjustments to stay relevant.
Completely agree. I mean, what are your thoughts as well? Like, I feel like collaboration is so huge, but it's also a fear, right? Because you're sort of competing with others. So, I mean, what do you think this could provide, sort of like a platform for collaboration?
Oh, without a doubt, right? Especially for the food vendor customer group we're going after with Common Cookery. These guys are traditionally being left out of the booming, the online virtual restaurant space, right? Just because they were not even a target audience for the DoorDashes and the Grubhubs, mainly because they don't even understand their business concept. So for that group, there is definitely strength in numbers. Being able to collaborate with other fellow independents that are in struggling positions as yourselves, because they're the ones that are really hit hard now with this whole coronavirus pandemic, will bring that bargaining power to the table when you are looking to, say, work on these platforms, right? The original business plan for Common Cookery was to first of all build a hub and spoke kitchen network and then add on a digital marketplace. We wanted to specifically build these physical kitchen facilities known as ghost kitchens to be able to even offer low cost kitchen production options to these smaller independents who may be looking to expand into new marketplaces or maybe looking to open new virtual restaurant concepts to fulfill their to-go business so they can grow their revenue. Just to piggyback off of Brenda and Brandy's points, the need to pivot and benefit off of the digital food space is essential for these smaller independents. And a lot of them, right, have really missed out on this opportunity. As I was saying earlier on before I went offline, it was one of the original ideas behind even building those ghost kitchen facilities so that they could even enter into new markets at a cheaper rate and be able to increase their margins, right? Or even launch new concepts. For those of you who are familiar with the cloud kitchen spaces or who may not even realize, right, when you go on Grubhub, a lot of what you see on Grubhub tend to be different restaurant concepts by one owner. So it's not unusual for you to have, say, ABC Restaurant Limited, right? To open an Italian concept online, a Chinese concept online, and an Indian concept online. And they all look like different restaurants that belong to different entrepreneurs, but they're all the same owner operating out of a single space. We wanted to introduce this as a market expansion model, or even as a way of entering into a new marketplace for these smaller independent food vendors that cater to this growing diaspora transnational demographic. But we had a pivot, right? As I mentioned, the original plan was to build that physical facility and then build a digital marketplace where we could integrate them into so they could fulfill online pickup and delivery. So what have we done? We've moved the digital marketplace forward because we've engaged these guys. We've engaged about 400 of them, right? And wanted to keep the engagement going. And a lot of them are hurting right now. Wanted to give them opportunities to break into a new market or to even be able to fulfill 50 to 70% of their pre-COVID orders. So we created this digital market space, fulfilling our two main objectives of bridging the cultural connections of trying to bring hard to find regional dishes to the general market by making them easily accessible, but also encouraging these smaller food vendors to get into this collaborative mindset and work together in ways that can reduce their day-to-day costs as well as improve efficiencies that will result in higher margins. Uh, we're even looking to introduce concepts such as member-owned delivery co-ops, which have been in existence in Southeast Asia for a very long time in places like Indonesia, where all members get to take in the share of the delivery proceeds, right? So it's not like you're paying a big chunk of it to some delivery platform and you get peanuts at the end of the day. You've seen the concept even beginning to take hold in places like Germany. It will be a nice concept to launch here in the US and just observe and see how it plays out. So those are some of like the pivoting strategies that we'll be looking to introduce as we launch our marketplace and as we really work with our member food businesses to come on board. We don't just see them as just customers we're trying to sell to. We're actually seeing them as a member of a community that will come on board, learn from each other, and grow together as well. As we all navigate this new environment with nobody really knowing what lies ahead in 6 to 24 months, really, so to speak. So that was always the general concept behind the Common Cookery model. And it's something that we're looking to work on and grow and take flight as we go into the year. And as my co-panelist today would can allude to Brandy, she has been involved in the process from the beginning. It's something she's passionate about, working with the smaller grassroots businesses to have access to growth opportunities in new market spaces.
I really appreciate that Common Cookery, had the courage and, the insight, to pivot, to move the digital marketplace up, because that's what's needed right now. Something that's easily accessible, digital, people feel safe, especially during this pandemic. So we can keep that moving, because as you described, you're still doing what is planned as far as your roadmap. It's just you moving it around. And that's the key thing to mention, is that, you'll be able to still do everything, just maybe not exactly when planned. And everybody knows what's going on with our current situation, so they can understand and respect that. And hopefully they applaud you for that, to, paying attention to what's needed now and catering to that. So again, that's great things. And I had to say, I laugh because I think of even people in the music industry. I'm not sure how many people are on IG or Instagram and watch IG Live, but there's been everything from competitions from artists to these DJs going live. And that was awesome to see. So you see, it's not just a pivot that's required in the actual restaurant industry, but everybody's been impacted. I mean, some people are just having their conversations one-on-ones on IG Live and other platforms. So it is a common thing. I'm not sure if anybody else has seen those, or if there's something that stuck out to them as far as how some businesses have pivoted during these times.
In fact, I noticed this. I received a question for you. Maybe can you explain the difference between what is it different from what you're doing and from Dash Door or like Uber Eats, because they're also like digitally, right? But can you explain a little bit more?
DoorDash, and excuse me, I had to take my video off because of the bandwidth issues as well, right? With DoorDash, right, they are an order delivery marketplace. With us, the major difference is that we're focused on smaller independent food businesses that cater to a certain demographic that we've called the diaspora transnational demographic. The DoorDashes, right, their bigger push in order to expand is to cater to the mainstream brands, because their profit model revolves around that, right? We want to focus on bringing the guys on board that have not yet entered this digital food space. And no one is reaching out to them. They're not even being marketed to at this moment because nobody understands that particular market. We, along with our development team, right, come from those demographics and understand how to even market to them directly and make them comfortable. DoorDash needs to grow and scale super quickly, and they don't have the bandwidth to invest in that time-consuming grassroots marketing for this space, right? And for us, the major focus is on bringing these guys on board. And even though we're helping them adapt their menu to the digital space, we want them to keep cooking what they are cooking. We don't want them to dilute their recipes. And also with the DoorDash, they're pretty much focused on demand, right? You are going to place your order and you get it 30 minutes to an hour, right? Depending on how far you are from the restaurant. We're not even operating in that on-demand space. Our own major focus, right, is to bring in food service providers and customers that are going to be involved in scheduled pickup and delivery. So the idea is that our customers will come on board and they will order ahead of time and they will order in larger volumes compared to the typical single serve volumes that you may get out of DoorDash.
So how can people help you now in the coming launch phase? How can people get involved?
Yeah, sure. So right now we are currently building the digital marketplace, commoncookery.com. We plan to have the MVP ready for a test launch by the end of July. As I previously mentioned, we've actually engaged 400 restaurants, private chefs, and caterers with another 250 targeted. We plan to test the MVP with 20 to 30 food vendors and analyze performance for improvement as we test. We're putting together our development and our go-to-market teams. And right now we're actively fundraising to be able to meet these first stage development objectives with the idea of scaling in Houston by going live fully come fall and then launching in other cities as well.
I'm just going to drive this point home as far as what's on the slide. Moses is being modest, but when he says that everybody can help and be part of this solution, it is true. Whether you are a culinary lover of the world, you're actually in the restaurant space. I remember somebody earlier said they're looking to get into it. I think that was a gentleman from Seattle, Steve. I think that was you. You can sign up to be part of the testing as far as if you're within the respective industry, as Moses mentioned earlier. You also can help with the UX, the user experience, as far as testing out the app and giving us feedback. Also, if you've been in the industry or know some people, we're also looking for people to help with advocacy and with the user focus. So you can help advise us and give us some tips and feedback, because the data is going to drive to make sure we have the best solution. That's what we want to provide, because as Moses said, this digital marketplace is key, and that's what we focus on. Some people may not be aware, but stay on a lookout for Common Cookery. They've applied for several pitch competitions. A lot of them are virtual as expected, but help spread the word, get the word out. If you are an investor or know somebody, definitely come talk to us. We are interested in learning more from you. And then I would say also to the other resources on this webinar, Brenda and myself, Brenda's from HCC. She gave you a brief overview is what all HCC can provide and help out, and specifically with the Center on Entrepreneurship. Make sure you take advantage of that resources and others within the local community. And then for myself, as mentioned, I'm a consultant. I do stuff for product life cycle from what we call cradle to grave, not the most endearing type of term, but typically that's what it's called. And we're here to help you and assist, and that's really what I want to make sure everybody understood. And we want to stay in contact with you guys after this webinar and the whole series is finished.
Yes, sorry, I wanted to address a question that was quickly directed at me by one of the attendees. He was asking about covering the delivery options and the relative expenses compared to the bigger commercial brands, right? So for us, we're really going to be pushing that pickup option because the idea is to really support local. As far as the scheduled delivery goes, when we finish the MVP stage, one of the things we want to test is also having the ability to do dispatches to third-party delivery networks, which we will connect with restaurateurs as well as eaters, right, as an option to fulfill delivery. And there are a lot of options popping up all over the place now due to changes in the whole virtual restaurant space, right? And you're beginning to see a lot of the restaurants themselves fulfill deliveries directly, and using some of those employees that they've had to lay off because of the pandemic, and those employees are fighting to deliver food because of the good tips, right? So we're going to be exploring different options and positing them before our vendor groups, but we're not going to be in the business yet of managing a delivery fleet. As we scale, and navigate the unknown terrain, and if we consider it viable, absolutely something we will explore.
Yeah, well, and I just wanted to add, I mean, and Steve and Scott, yes, you are so right. Like, I think we are so locally driven, especially as a community college that we are. But now that we're all online, our efforts and our programs are really available for all of you, no matter where you are. So we're just so happy that you're part of our network now. And please be engaged. Again, you can follow us on our website, on our social media. Send us an email. You can connect with all Moses, Brandy, myself through LinkedIn, or after this webinar, we'll also send out a survey. So please make sure to give us your feedback that way and give us your email so we can stay connected. They also have a Slack channel. So if you'd like to see a little bit more of the content, please make sure to click on that link. And then we also have 2 more webinars, so please spread the word. If you love this webinar, please make sure to tell all your family and friends. We're here, we're having this webinars every Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So the one coming up is June 16th, the business and community impacts. That will be the focus of it. And then the one on June 24th will be the agile stability, excelling in the new abnormal. So thank you for your feedback so much. I think there's another slide where you can get more of Moses' contact information, as well as his website, so you can check out the platform. And feel free, I mean, we're here, again, we're very community driven, so please feel free to reach out to us. It's just one click away.